Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel. I'm Mrs. Happy Catholic, and I'm here today with my new friend, Christopher Thrutchley Jr., and who has kindly consented to come on and share a little bit about his background in faith and coming into Catholicism and experiences with traditionalism. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about this. So thank you so much for coming on, Christopher.
Anytime. Thanks a lot for having me, Laura. I'm very excited to be speaking with you.
Oh, cool. Well, this is my first video in a while too. And so I'm like, haha, we're blowing off the dust and getting back to things. So no, I'm excited. I'm really glad you reached out and that we got to talk a little bit. And so I was curious. You said you were raised reorganized LDS Community of Christ. I never even really heard of that before. So would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
I'd love to. It's some interesting family trivia. I actually didn't realize my own upbringing until I was older. I asked my parents, what was that one church we went to till I was like 5, with grandma and grandpa? And they were telling me, well, that was the RLDS church. And so I said, what's that? And it, sort of went from there. I had vaguely heard that we had a Mormon background in our family. And there's a legendary story about an ancestor of ours being on the train in the 19th century on their way to Joseph Smith Jr.'s compound. Wow. And on the train, story goes, they get the message, the prophet's been shot in the prison, in the jail. He's been shot. Oh my gosh. And so they're like, okay, well, what's the plan? And people were saying some people are going out west with Brigham Young in Utah to start the new Zion. But some people are going to stay in Missouri as originally planned with Joseph Smith Jr.'s widow, Emma Smith. Wow. And so my ancestors ended up going with Emma Smith. So kind of like the Sunni Shia split in Islam. There's like a Sunni Shia Mormonism, basically. Wow. So if you went with Brigham Young, his revelations took a bit more of what I would call like a William Blakeian, Emmanuel Swedenborgian kind of flavor, just very esoteric, like you're going to become gods and have your own planet. And I'm not saying it necessarily to make fun of them. What I would say is Mormonism to me feels like turning Skyrim into a religion. And to me, that's not even an insult. It's kind of a compliment, actually. It's like cool. It's like got that sci-fi feel to it. So I think that part I would say is like, you can respect it on some level, but on the other side, the RLDS church was a little more like mainline Protestant, and that's the direction they've gone to this day. If you take like a Methodist or an American Baptist, so not a Southern Baptist, you take like Methodist, American Baptist, Episcopalian, you put them in a room with a Community of Christ pastor who could be male or female these days, as far as I know. I think they got on that train. They're pretty much going to agree on everything. Like you ask them about politics, you ask them about doctrine and like women's ordination. They're all going to agree, basically. So it took a very different direction. Wow. And that's, I think, about how I would start off a conversation about it. Interestingly, when I was first speaking with Roman Catholic priests, I was told that Roman Catholicism in my home state, which I live in the state of Oklahoma, I've lived here pretty much my whole life, give or take like 3 months plus a few weeks, so I'm like born and bred Oklahoman. I'm Oklahoman and Roman, as they say. But the Roman Catholics in Oklahoma advocated for an ecumenical inclusion of the RLDS church in like the Oklahoma Council of Churches because they have a Trinitarian valid baptism.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I asked my grandfather about this because he was a lay pastor and his father was a lay pastor. So, I mean, my family was deep in this stuff. I was 6th generation.
Whoa.
Like both my parents were 5th generation. So, I mean, we were deep in the RLDS church, and that's a whole story in and of itself, honestly. But what ended up happening was I was talking to my grandpa and he said, well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I told him that anecdote about the priest and the conversation about the inclusion of the RLDS church and how that was shot down by restorationists, basically. So like Oral Roberts University types. And he was saying, well, come to think of it, one time a member of my father's congregation converted to Catholicism. And I distinctly remember a Roman Catholic priest visited our home late one night, and he had an extended conversation with your great-grandfather. And the conclusion of the conversation was, your church observes the rite of baptism correctly. I will not be rebaptizing this convert. And this is before the Second Vatican Council even. Wow. That's part of what makes the story so interesting.
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing.
So that's kind of cool. So I don't know, coming to like Roman Catholicism and, you know, having a tradition that's very accepting of heretical baptisms. Like, if you know much about the Arian controversy, someone in the chat will just, you know, tell me why I'm wrong and give me a historical quote. I hope, you know, the great thing about being wrong is people will tell you, especially with the internet.
Yes.
Like, Redeem Zoomer. I digress a lot, so feel free to like redirect me. But Redeem Zoomer, that YouTube Protestant guy?
Oh, I haven't heard of him.
He's awesome. Look him up. He's my favorite Christian YouTuber.
Oh,
I'm willing to go on record saying that. But he's very Protestant. He's a Presbyterian. So he said, and it gives my brother some grief because my brother's considering becoming a Roman Catholic, you know? My brother's like, well, Redeem Zoomer said, if you're Catholic or Eastern Orthodox and you believe that the church is infallible, then you have to read everything the church ever wrote and figure out if they're all right. And so I just immediately replied to my brother and I said, why would I do that? Redeem Zoomer and Gavin Ortland are doing it for me. I'll just wait till they publish something I've never heard of, and we'll go from there. You know?
Oh man, that's great.
But anyhow, that's a bit of a digression. My point is just that it's nice to feel like my ancestry has like redeeming elements, and you know, and I don't want to be like cliche, but you look at the Second Vatican Council and the way that it tries to rebrand how the Roman Catholic Church interacts with outsiders. This is actually one area where I really disagree with trads, and we can get into that later. But it's kind of cool to be able to look back on my ancestry and think maybe there was something to these baptisms. Maybe that should give me more hope. And when I pray for my dead ancestors, you know, maybe there can be a bit of oomph behind that prayer. It's not just kind of a throwaway gesture at that point, you know?
Right.
And that's really touching. I think Catholicism is really good at helping people have peace about their background while still changing what they need to change, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good way to look at it. Definitely very positive, and also allowing that the fact that God is not bound by his sacraments and that he wills the salvation of all men like more than we can comprehend, and is not missing a single opportunity to, you know, get him in there. And it's like, if people are of goodwill and they're seeking him, it's like their life can play out what might look like crazy to us, but we still don't know for sure where they end up. And so, yeah, it's never wasted.
I completely agree with everything you just said. I think that's really good. And I find that when you approach religion in that way, with this sense of God's transcendence and the fact that whatever particular systems that he implements or allows human cultures to implement, that there's a sense in which those themselves are provisional, and that the ultimate thing is very far exceeds what we experience in the particularities. I think that's very important even to Roman Catholic doctrine.
Oh yeah. And especially when you get into conversations with traditionalists too, because they want to be so like everything kind of bound up in words and concepts and like just stick to that. It's like it really gives them security. But we have to remember that we only know so much, and that God is bigger than so much bigger. And that when we die, we're just going to be like, whoa, wow. Like it's going to be a good wow though, like an illumination that gives hope and just more glory to God. And like, so we can look forward to that instead of being afraid of it.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. That reminds me of, I've been doing the Office of Readings recently, and I can't take credit. I don't do the whole thing. It's a big commitment, and I have ADHD and all that good stuff, and it's hard for me to focus for longer than 10 seconds on anything, you know. But there was a really great one. I think it was by Hilary, Saint Hilary, you know, the Latin doctor. Aquinas quotes him a lot. I think he lived a little before Augustine, maybe, if I'm getting my dates right. I'm more of an Eastern Christian type. The Latin
No,
fathers I don't know as well.
no, look at all those icons in the background. I never would have guessed.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was trying to think, what should I put in the background? And it was either my icons. I actually do have an amazing Baroque painting of Our Lady, the Immaculate Conception. So I claim to be a super duper anti-ultramontanist, but I'm a hypocrite on at least 2 counts. I like the Immaculate Conception, which is a very ultramontane doctrine. And I love the Society of Jesus, and no one can make me stop.
Good for you.
So I am a hypocrite, but I'd rather be a hypocrite and still call myself an anti-ultramontane, because I don't like ultramontanism. Not a fan. I'm more of a Gallican guy. You know?
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh,
anyhow.
man. No, you're good. No, and I'm totally in the same ADHD boat with you. So yeah, this will be a very interesting conversation.
We're good. We like interesting.
Yes. So you mentioned to me that your parents ended up leaving the RLDS to join a kind of tradish evangelical group later. So what was that? Was that like a bomb going off in the family? Because that was probably a big deal.
It was definitely a bomb. It was preceded by trickles, though. So to paint a more complete picture, one, that is true. Part of why I was interested in speaking with you was one of the most uncanny things I experienced going into trad Catholic spaces after not really being in that kind of zone formerly was in many ways the subculture. So, there's Roman Catholicism, and that's not really going to be present in an evangelical organization, right? So the evangelicals I grew up with, nobody prays for the dead. Nobody believes in purgatory. Nobody thinks that, it's worth praying for no one thinks saints pray for you in an overt way that you can request, Yeah. They didn't teach the saints were on speed dial like the way a Catholic might believe. You know what I'm saying? The Bible's had 66 books, not 73, 72. I lose track. But
I think it's 72. Yeah, we're
right.
close.
But the big families, which I have nothing against big families, but it can be a sign of a certain kind of subculture. The big families, the very right-wing apocalyptic approach to politics, there's a lot of overlap in the circles I was raised in and then trad Catholic circles, to the point where I actually had a conversation one evening at a men's event when I was still attending the FSSP parish. I went to an FSSP for like 3.5 years from about June 2021. I kind of gave up on it in November 2024, and that's when I started going to a different parish. And I remember there was one men's event when I was still at the FSSP parish, and people were kind of asking me, because I was getting a little bit more transparent about some of my misgivings. The longer time went on, I gave benefit of the doubt a lot, like my first year there. Yeah. And then things kept happening. I would try and give whatever resistance I knew how to give, Maybe it was maybe a message in a men's chat that maybe could have been phrased better on my part. So I'm willing to take some responsibility for some of this, naturally, But I told them on some level, because they mentioned, well, what about all the kids here? What about all the big families? What about, what they regarded as like political realism or honesty, like along the right wing line would be how they would see it, I suppose. And they asked me like, what about all this stuff? And I just told them, that's not really special, guys. Like, I don't know how to break it to you. You can get that in other places. This parish reminds me a lot of the non-denominational church I was raised in. I mean, if that's your marker of what genuine religion is, you might have to consider being Mormon now, because they're like this too. Like, I have a few Mormon friends, and I'm not saying that as an insult. I kind of selfishly hope one of my LDS friends at work will watch this video just so he could see me in a different setting than like, software engineering, which is what I do, for my career at the moment. And I have nothing against them. I mean, I don't agree with them at the moment. I'm a pretty open-minded guy. If they make a good case to me and they say, well, actually, Joseph Smith had a revelation that Skyrim is real. And the developers of Skyrim actually were devout LDS secretly promoting the truth of the world. I'd be like, this is very tempting. I'm having to rethink this one a bit, but I swear I have a ton of respect for these people. I'm just saying that can't be the criterion for identifying subcultures that are on the right path. Because lots of cultures have this. And this is one thing that I really like about Catholicism as I understand it. From what I understand in the Protestant Reformation, and I'm going to cite my sources this, a book by Father Henry Nutcombe Oxenham. He has a book called Catholic Eschatology and Universalism. I think that is the best book on universalism ever written. Wow. I don't know of any that's better. It's amazing. I kind of wish people would promote that instead of Father Hansers von Balthasar's Dare We Hope. But I have to admit, I recently reread Dare We Hope for a reading group, and it was a lot better than I remembered. However, it took a while to pick up. You have to get to like chapter 7, and it's fire from there. But like until chapter 7, it's like, are you just politicking? Like he's doing the whole, well, the left got rid of me, and now the right did. I'm like, did N.T. Wright, the Anglican scholar N.T. Wright, he's always talking about left and right have both rejected me. I think David French does this too. I'm like, did you all read Balthasar? Is that where you guys got this? I don't know. I find that talking point a bit annoying. Like, to me, you should have fixed principles. And if political flavors change over time, that shouldn't affect you at all, ideally. Now, we're all human. We're always affected by our peers and our environment. So in practice, that's pretty hard to pull off. But for me, it's like, I would like to think, and I'm not going to do this, but I'd like to think I could show you the political spectrum. I could point to where I'm at, and I'm going to be there in 50 years, no matter what happens to the spectrum. That's why I don't. Yeah, anyway, that was a bit of a digression. I think you see what I'm saying.
Yes.
All of this is a long-winded way of saying I feel that I'd sort of experienced tradism before, not in a Roman Catholic form, but in an evangelical form. It's seen the pattern twice in very different religious dogmatic settings is a bit uncanny, to be honest with you.
Wow.
But that's part of my story. So there you have it.
Yeah. So it felt familiar. Like those things you're going, guys, like these Catholics that have developed this in their own thinking and behavior, they're not going to recognize it as being related to anything else. But you can say, I've seen this before. That's so interesting. Yeah.
I think in some ways it helped break the spell for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because having that experience, seeing those parallels, there's sort of a recognition I feel I had that cultural meritorious things. And I think a Roman Catholic, I think our faith insists that there's sort of a respect that should be given to large families, regardless of what religion they're from. In my city, there's a mosque nearby. And I actually have some old friends there. We're not like super close or anything, but people I've known and talked to a long time and I'm on friendly terms with. Sometimes I've even observed their prayer services once or twice. It's interesting. I don't participate because I'm not a Muslim, but I observe, They haven't persuaded me to say the Shahada just yet. Maybe we'll get there someday. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But they did open the second holiest mosque to non-Muslims in Medina in Arabia, though. I kind of want to go someday, but we'll see.
That's interesting.
But anyhow, what I'm saying is there are families there with very large families, and I respect that. I think that that's a lost art in our modern world. And I am comfortable to say this much about politics, I suppose. In our modern world, the virtues of capitalism don't really include family formation. It's all about being expendable, having infinite free time that you can give to your employer, entrepreneurialism. I went to a coffee shop the other day, and there's this book here that talks about, I didn't think the perfect cup of coffee existed until I went on an epic journey across 3 continents. And I just saw the book, and I thought, this is the Platonic essence of capitalism. This infinite mobility, and I'm kind of proud that I've lived in one state, mostly one city, my whole life. I mean, because so many Americans, we've just lost this, is localism and having a place, being from somewhere, and like being loyal. These are just sort of lost American virtues, in my opinion, and it's beautiful wherever you see it. So I'm not coming down and saying it's bad that trads have big families. It's not worthy of praise just because I've seen it other places. I just am here to say, if that's the measure of authentic Catholicism, authentic religion, that can get a bit awkward when you start seeing other cultures doing the same thing. Right. So what I think is better is we recognize, like the church does, that, and this is why I brought up Oxenham. He talks about the reformers, according to him. So some Protestant's going to come in the chat and tell me this is wrong. In before Dr. Gavin Ortlund shows up or whatever. I mean, I'm not that important. He'll never watch this video in my dreams, right? But let's say Gavin Ortlund's disciple shows up here and he's like, oh, the Protestants were more open than that. Okay, I'll accept correction on the basis of text. But Oxenham says that, and it's true to my experience growing up as a Protestant, even if it's not true of Protestantism, that there's sort of this rejection of the idea of natural virtue, that people without baptism, without grace, without salvation can have remarkable virtue. Yeah. And to me, that's just flat out contradicts history. According to Oxenham, the ecclesiologist and historian Adam Moeller, he was very influential, along with St. John Henry Newman, with the formulation of the Vatican Council, the Second Vatican Council's teaching on the laity. Oxenham talks about, Moeller says, if you adopt the Protestant understanding of natural virtues, because they dismiss them basically, that makes a theology of history impossible. And that's a quote. Moeller's like, you can't do history. You can't be honest about history if you believe that only baptized Christians of Orthodox religion, Orthodox minds, can have remarkable natural virtue.
Wow.
So to me, that's sort of the answer, is you come at the trad and you say, I'm glad you have natural virtue. Let's work on your theology now. Why are you so sympathetic? And I met so many people who, and it was kind of a funny pattern to watch. When my wife and I first showed up at the FSSP, there was a lot of new blood from COVID. We started going because I have a friend in the Order of Preachers, and after Traditiones Custodes, he encouraged me to go to the Latin Mass weekly. That was kind of why I gave it a try.
Interesting.
And he's a great guy. So nothing against him, but that was kind of the timing for me. So we get a lot of COVID stragglers here from out of state. And it was sort of a funny pattern. They would show up and they'd be pretty moderate. They'd be friendly towards Catholics who did not attend the Tridentine Mass. They would be friendly towards some of the recent popes. Typically not Francis, but you would at least have people praising Benedict XVI or John Paul II. Maybe if they're really out there, Paul VI, like me. Paul VI is, I think he's the best post-conciliar pope. He's my favorite of them all. So that's me. I'll just plug my boy Paul VI here real quick. But people would drift towards the SSPX every time. And I felt like I was the only person there who wasn't. And I'm going to have to be transparent about some things that, I guess the way that I got sucked into the trad stuff a little bit. I did watch Mass of the Ages with a friend, and I felt very moved by it. It seemed pretty believable. I was shocked when it quoted Louis Bouillet as having personal experiences with Bunini and really hating his guts. Because I really respect Louis Bouillet, and I had heard of him before that documentary, and I had read his book on ecclesiology before that documentary. And so it was kind of shocking that like somebody like Bouillet would have an anecdote like that you could put in a documentary. And I remember I felt very moved by it. And I only upon later reflection did I come to feel like maybe it was a bit one-sided of a documentary, which would be my position now. I remember people were talking to me about Lefebvre and trying to convince me that he was doing a Saint Athanasius sort of move. And I remember saying in a group chat, I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but I'm trying to admit the full spectrum of what I got into so that people can appreciate that this trad stuff can really be tough for people and put people in tough situations. I want people to appreciate that. I even said like Saint Lefebvre in a chat, which is probably not something I'd say again. I mean, for the man's sake, I hope he's a saint. I hope he's enjoying the beatific vision. I don't have a particular reason to doubt it, but I mean, like, maybe Saint's going a bit far considering some of the decisions he made, especially like the more I've learned about his life, you know? But I mean, that's sort of what happens. They get you in their group chats. They start talking to you. They set the tone in a certain direction. And whenever I contradicted it, I actually got kicked out of a group chat. And I can pretty much quote what I said from memory. I said something like, because it was getting a little heated, but I was like talking about Bishop Robert Barron, whom I really respect. And I actually have a mutual friend of Barron's.
Oh, that's cool. No, yeah. I respect him too, but trads tend to have an issue with him. So
right. And so my take is my mutual friend of Barron knows him quite well. And I defer to him in the app. I need proof. I need like a video. And I need 2 videos because the AI videos are a thing now. Right? Like I need absolute proof Barron is a bad actor before I will believe it.
Yeah.
He seems like the only plausible living successor to Fulton Sheen to me. I've never seen a good argument to the contrary of that, speaking for myself, but I digress. So I was talking about Bishop Barron, his Vatican II collection, which I really like. It's one of my favorite books. It has a prize section on my shelf in my bedroom. It's a wonderful read. He's got great commentary from the post-conciliar popes. A scholar I really revere, Dr. Matthew Leverine. He wrote the Afterword. I can't say enough good about Barron, about Dr. Leverine. I love these people, really look up to him. So I just really like that book. And it was getting a little heated in that chat. And I just replied, I said something like, in my entire time at this parish, and I've been there a little over a year at this point, I think, I said, I have never seen a single good argument against Vatican II. I've been here a year. I hear you guys complain about it a lot. I've never seen a good argument. I said, not from a single one of you. I got booted instantly. And I've never been in that group chat since then.
Oh,
yeah.
Sounds like Catholic behavior to me. Just kidding.
Oh, don't say that for our Eastern Orthodox and Protestant friends watching.
Oh, no.
I do have a few of those in my friend circles, so probably some will watch. So, brothers, forgive her. No.
Yes, I am ecumenical at heart. Really, no.
I know you are. I know. I'm being silly.
No.
Yeah. Oh anyhow, I guess that paints a picture.
Oh gosh. Wow. So you were there 3.5 years. So you got really sucked into the ideology, which I mean, I didn't get in quite that far when I was in traditionalism, but I definitely was like a little muddy on things. Things were not presented to me as clear cut as they really were. And it was just, there's a lot of sympathy, like misplaced sympathy, where it's like, oh, we should feel bad for these people. Oh, well, you know, they did the wrong thing, but they meant well or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but then you end up with the ends justify the means. And we really can't trust the church. And when it comes down to it, you have to figure everything out for yourself and decide everything for yourself. And the whole salvation of the world kind of comes down to you. But it's like, okay, wow. I mean, like after a while, it's like it comes on you so slowly that you don't realize exactly what's happening until you kind of like somehow run into it. I mean, I'm just convinced it's just grace providing you the opportunity to be like, hey, smack, like, guess what's happening here? Or do you see it in somebody else and you're like, I'm becoming that. And then you're like, oh no, what happened? I used to be like this loving, peaceful person. Now I'm in a twist, and I'm thinking about the end times, and I'm looking for conspiracies behind every tree and bush, and I'm reading sensational Catholic blogs, and having these really negative conversations with my friends. Yeah, guess what happened in the church today, and this pope said this, and all the problems at our parish and stuff. And it's just like, wait, whoa. When you have to like make a really deliberate effort to be positive, and it's like almost impossible to do that, oh man, we got problems.
That's very well put. Very, very true to my experience. I do remember feeling that way when this is going to sound terrible, but I'm just going to be transparent about something, a thought I really had. I remember when Pope Francis died, I was relieved. And I wasn't relieved because I didn't like him. I actually really liked Pope Francis. But I was like, I never have to hear another conversation with my trad friends about the latest horrible thing he did. So I literally felt relieved. I'm embarrassed to admit it, but that's where I was at, And I'm actually thankful to say when he died, I actually have to praise the trads I know. All of them said they were praying for his soul. They all said that they wished him well. Aww. So I do have to give the trads I know that. So I'm not going to deprive them of that. That was very fine. I appreciated the way they reacted to his death.
Oh, good. I actually
they reacted to his death better than I did. I was relieved, and they're like praying for his soul,
Well, I don't think he would have blamed you for feeling that way. I think he was.
Yeah, and then we have Leo, and I'm pretty. For me, like, this isn't a diss. I just said I liked Pope Francis, and I did. I mean, I'm not ignorant of some of the hubbub. My hot take is worshiping Pachamama, if he really did that, was less scandalous than deposing Bishop Strickland. That's the Eastern Orthodox side of me talking, but that is actually what I think. That's my hot take for the night.
Interesting.
But anyway, I would say Leo 14 is a solid Francis II so far. And to me, that's not a problem. I'm like, great. I like the way it was going. Maybe there's a couple of things I would have changed here and there, but I'm not the Pope, so it's not really my issue, So I don't really have an issue with that, but I'm not sure that I'm getting much relief from the controversy so far, especially with the SSPX consecrations coming up, which I'm sure, we could spend a whole 3 hours talking about, but that's been a whole thing. I'm trying to, I said my piece and I'm done. So that's where I'm at with it. I'm trying to not think about it. It's like, I think what I would say, and maybe this is worth saying, I don't know. Tell me what you think, but I generally would say most trad premises I pretty much agree with. So like a lot of the trad premises are, after Vatican II, we had tons of people leave the church. We have a crisis of vocations. We have a lot of bishops it can be hard to understand why they were appointed. I mean, if I'm allowed to say it,
Mm-hmm.
It seems kind of bad in some ways, I mean, like, and I hate to be like that guy who like rags on the German bishops, but I mean, they're really embarrassing. Like I was just watching an old debate because I'm getting sucked into the weeds with some Eastern Orthodox friends about like Vatican I and things, which that was another thing that I have to give trads credit for. They motivated me to look into Vatican I more. The trads did. Because I was like, I bet you Vatican I is more problematic than Vatican II if you look into it. I looked into it, and yes, it's more problematic than Vatican II. I don't think it's insurmountably problematic. I would have to probably stop being Catholic if I thought that. But I think Pastor Aeternus, the document on the Pope, and when I was converting, that was my number 2 issue with Catholicism. I was like, this Pope stuff is weird. I checked out Hans Küng. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
I checked out Hans Küng's book, Infallible in Inquiry. That's the book that got him suspended from his license to teach as a priest. They allowed him to offer Holy Communion. And I remember, like, the things that converts worry about. I remember I was talking to the young man who was encouraging me to investigate Catholicism. And I said, but what if they excommunicate me because I don't believe in papal infallibility? He's like, relax, man. They won't excommunicate anybody. You can believe whatever you want.
Oh, no.
And luckily, I met another gentleman who I think had a bit of a more orthodox mind, so to speak. So I was able to work through my issues. My top 3, if anyone's curious, was hell. So I was super universalist before I became Catholic, like David Bentley Hart level, George MacDonald, Bulgakov. So that was pretty much my world. And to me, that was a huge issue. And it still kind of is. It's just the way I deal with it is different now. The same sort of feelings are involved, but we could go into that later if needed. But the Pope was number 2. So I remember looking into Vatican I, and I really struggled with it. But I kind of put it on hold after a while, and I saw enough. I'm like, okay, I can kind of buy it because I'm more of a speculative theologian. I'm not really a historian. I'm not really a dogmatic theologian. History and dogma, to draw a science analogy, I'm a chemist as well. That's my academic training. So I have a master's in chemistry. I did pass a PhD qualifying exam. So I was a PhD candidate, but I decided not to keep doing the research because it would have taken forever. And I think I made a good decision in retrospect. But I don't have a doctorate. I have a master's. But in biology, you just have to memorize a bunch of stuff. That's history. That's dogmatic theology. I think that's boring. In speculative theology, you learn like 5 principles and you can derive everything from them. That's where I live. So like Sergei Bulgakov was into that. Hans von Balthasar was a great speculative theologian. I'm not sure how orthodox I think he was, but orthodoxy isn't really a precondition of engagement from my perspective, so I don't really care. To me, it's kind of a moot question of curiosity. It's not like I would disown Balthasar if he was a heretic. I wouldn't. I'd be like, he's the coolest heretic I know. That's all I would say. But I don't know. But I think you get what I'm saying. But I sort of lost track of myself there. But I was just trying to comment on how it got really old hearing bad news all the time. It felt like there was a bit of a pattern there. Everything that's happening is bad. There's no good news until some fascist, takes over Washington and I don't know what's the fever dream these days. Launches the 6th crusade over in the Middle East somewhere. Like I don't know what the fever dream is these days, but I'm just saying like for them the bar is like so high of what would save the church, save the world. It's like, well then how can you take any satisfaction in anything if that's the bar? And then to me, it feels like, and I am going to go into a bit of gentle criticism mode. I love these people and I'm very good friends with trads. So I don't want to say anything that's just uncalled for and over the top. But at the same time, if I can go into friendly criticism mode, I don't want my safe Catholic tiny island while the rest of the world burns. That's not Christianity to me. I don't believe in that. If that's Christianity, count me out. I'm going to go do something different. I'm going to go be a Neoplatonist Hindu. I'm not going to be a Christian if that's what Christianity is. No, I'm serious. David Bentley Hart is a Neoplatonist Hindu. He's one of the coolest living scholars, in my opinion. Like, that's a real path. On some days, I like it better than what I'm doing. I'm going to be honest with you, Laura. But I'm here. My friend Dr. Levering says it so well. He says that I'm here for Jesus Christ. And I'm here because I think this is where he is. And for no other reason. And I find that very moving. It's like St. Peter said, and it's a great story, but the LDS Church has a really great series of cartoons on the New Testament. And they're pretty accurate. Like a lot of I can't read the New Testament and not see these cartoons in my mind and hear these voices in my head. But there's a moment where the Jews leave Jesus at the John 6 episode with, the Eucharistic discourse. And Jesus says, what about you? Or are you going to leave also? And I'll never forget this, like the way the voice actor and, the music kicked in. It was really beautiful. It was almost like Prince of Egypt or something, if you've ever seen that. That's a very ecumenical movie, by the way. Muslims love that movie. I think Jews like it. Great movie to have an interreligious watch party with if you're taking recommendations. But
Thank you.
yeah, exactly. So, but he's like, to whom shall we go, Lord? Like, you have the words of eternal life. He has words of life, not words of like fire for everyone except our tiny clique,
Yeah.
And one of my favorite quotes, I think William Pletcher said it. He was a Presbyterian academic theologian. He said something, and he may have been quoting another guy, I don't know, but he said, whenever we draw lines between ourselves and others, we can be very sure that Jesus will take the other side.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's the kind of spirituality I think trads need.
Yeah.
Another thing I'd say, Saint Silouan the Athonite. He's one of the Greek monks of Mount Athos in the Orthodox Church. He is sainted in their church. Mm-hmm. And I'm generally predisposed to acknowledge their saints unless I have really good evidence they're not sainted. So I consider Gregory Palamas a saint. I'm willing to consider Mark of Ephesus a saint. I'm willing to say Photius was very smart. I'm not persuaded he's a saint. He's a tough sell for me. Orthodox will come back at me and say, I'm not persuaded Paul VI was a saint. I'll be like, well, I'm not persuaded Photius was a saint, so we can shake on that. Anyhow, yeah, this idea that, Silouan says, he says two things. He says, one, I alone will perish. And that's his answer to the hell question. I can't resist piling up a couple more quotes. Jonathan Edwards is the greatest American theologian. I don't know that Roman Catholics read him, which is actually nice because it means I might be able to get a PhD in theology someday reading someone that I don't need to learn French or German for, which would be great because I'm terrible at learning languages. I've been learning Spanish since I was like 15 and I still only know like 2 phrases and I get them wrong every day, And I try to learn enough Greek to say something like, en harke hein hologos, but then I get stuck and I'm like, well, what was the next part about the logos, or in Latin, oremus, and then it's like, well, now what? But Edwards says, this is in his resolutions that he wrote when he was a young man. He said, I have resolved to live in such a way that if in the end of it all, I am damned, I will have no regrets. To me, that's one of the most moving statements any Christian has ever said. And then you take that with like Silouan's I alone will perish. You take that with Silouan's statement. He was asked one time, and Brad Jersak shares this quote. He's a Orthodox. He's in the deconstruction scene. It's really a big deal in the circles I used to roll in. Deconstructionism, like losing your faith and all that, or trying to find a way to reconstruct your faith. Brad Jersak was a Mennonite, like old school radical Reformation Protestant who became an Eastern Orthodox under a really progressive prelate named Lazar Puhalo. Every time I mention Lazar's name to Orthodox friends, they vomit on the spot. They hate him. But I didn't know that at the time. I'm just, naive, evangelical Christopher, doesn't know anything, I'm still that way. We're all students, right? Yeah. But Silouan was asked, the monks came up to him, they said, how can we live with people being in hell, St. Silouan? Like, it troubles us. Doesn't it call into question God's goodness? And Silouan says something like, well, let me put it to you this way. He says, if there is anyone in hell, I would hope that you would spend a good portion of your time praying for them. And if you didn't do that, your heart is made of iron, and there's no room for iron in heaven.
Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wish trads would incorporate that into their spirituality. I think trads have a really hard time with like recent stuff. So you could throw them something a little older, maybe something like Henry Nutcomb Oxenham, who published his book a long time before Vatican II. And he asserts, and he has some support, especially from Gallican scholars and over in France, like Nicolas Sylvestre Berger, Father Henri Dominique Lacordaire, who was one of the great Dominican preachers of the 19th century after the French Revolution. He sort of helped rebuild the order of preachers after the revolution, as I understand it. So Oxenham says the number of the saved is not a settled question. It may be a common opinion that it's a small number, but that's not dogma. It's not even doctrine. It's just a common opinion.
It's pessimism.
Right. And Nicholas Sylvester Berger, he said he was Voltaire's debater. So he was a sharp guy. He was debating like Voltaire and the philosophes from the Enlightenment. Berger said, Nicholas Sylvester Berger, he said, and Lacordaire quotes this, it's not translated yet, so I need to find someone who knows French. Maybe I can direct message you after this and see if you have any connections. But, you know, Google Translate gives you the gist. Nicholas Sylvester Berger basically says, any sufficiently educated mind knows that in Scripture, nothing whatsoever is said about the number of the saved and the lost. If we are going by the parables alone, Berger goes on, we must conclude that most are saved. Out of 3 men with talents, 1 is lost. Out of 10 widows, 5 are saved. Out of 99 sheep and 1 lost, the Lord pursues the 1 lost. And he just goes on and on and on. And it's like, this is amazing. And this is a private reflection. I've never seen anyone write about this explicitly. I would love to write a book about hell, just as a former Universalist. I think I have a lot to say about it. It's one of the topics. I don't claim expertise on many topics, but that would be one of them that I would, frankly. The criteria for going to hell in the New Testament is actually pretty hard. You have to go out of your way. So, for example, Lazarus and the rich man. It's not like Lazarus is some, homeless potential crack addict that like the rich man sort of saw like on his way to the temple once every Saturday. And he kind of wonders in the back of his head, maybe I should say hi to him and give him a McDonald's gift card or something just to make sure he's okay. It's not like that. Like the scripture says he's under his table, like at his feet, eating crumbs with the dogs. I mean, that's a level of heartlessness that I have never seen in my entire adult life. I've never seen anyone show that level of heartlessness in my life. That's what our Lord says it takes to be damned. And then you go to Matthew, the sheep and the goats. I was hungry and you fed me. That's so something I've never seen anyone talk about this, Laura, but I think it's worth bringing up. Yeah. That is a pagan level of hospitality. In Homer, every Greek in Homer would show that level of hospitality or invoke the curse of the gods. Like Jesus is saying the criteria for being damned is pretty crazy. Like you have to try. And, part of the New Testament's warning to us is that darkness is in all of our hearts. We could become the kind of person who tries. And he also has the message, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. Even the lustful look counts as adultery. So there are statements that make it sound a little easier to be damned than those other statements too. But at the same time, lusting has to be like a very deliberate thing. It can't just be a passing glance. And even on the basics of moral theology, it couldn't be, because in Catholic moral theology, there are 3 conditions that must be met for a sin to be soul killing.
Right.
And 2 of those conditions are psychological on a basically impenetrable level. So basically, I would say per Catholic teaching, you actually can't know if any grave sin is a mortal sin. We confess all our grave sins as a formality because they could be mortal.
Yeah.
But we don't even know if the grave sins we do are mortal.
Well, and I also heard this.
That would be my
talk. Somebody gave us
a
talk at Trad Recovery about spiritual abuse, and they said that you'll run into this where preachers or priests and stuff are saying this is a mortal sin, that's a mortal sin, this is a mortal sin. He's like, it may sound like really technical, but it's actually a form of spiritual abuse to just tell someone this is a mortal sin. He's like, you can say it's grave matter, but to tell someone it is a mortal sin, it's like, wait a second, no, that's entering the internal forum. You don't know that. You don't know that all the conditions are present. You're not being careful enough in what you're saying, and you're freaking everybody out. They're sitting there going, oh my gosh. And it's like, yeah, like that. And that's a thing that develops, especially in traditionalism. It's like the scruples mortal sin is around every corner. Oh my gosh, hell is just gaping, yawning wide. And if I just don't pay attention for a sec, I'm going to tumble in like a snowflake, because that's, and it's like, it's good to care about pleasing God and not offending God. Like, that is the good that you take away from that. But he himself never said, I want you to be losing sleep over this, making sure that you're crossing your T's and dotting your I's. I mean, the only people he had harsh words for were the people who would not listen to him, who had hardened hearts, who knew he was God and decided to kill him anyway. I mean, it's like, those were the only people he lambasted. Everybody else was like, yeah, I'll talk to you. Yeah, I'll hang out with you. Yep, I came for you. It's like, yeah, a small minority were the people that he could not crack. That's the unforgivable sin, the one that you won't be sorry for. So I love what you're saying. I just think there's so much in what you're saying. I hope that you do. I hope you write a book, or do a series of videos or something on this, because I think there is so much to be gained from looking at this. So much hope too. And I don't know if you saw that documentary After Death. Did you see that?
No, tell me about it. Which one was that?
Angel
was that
Studios.
Like a mainstream thing? Was it like
Angel Studios did it. They do The Chosen. Yeah.
Oh, the LDS. Wait, Angel Studios did the
Angel
Chosen?
Studios did it, After Death. Oh, and it's all about NDEs, near-death experiences, and what they can teach us about heaven and dying. And it was like really interesting, but also very hopeful, because they talk about that only about 20% of near-death experiences that have been reported, because a lot of them aren't, because people won't talk about them. People think they're crazy or whatever. But anyway, of those, only 20% recount a hell-like experience. And in the stories, when they are it's a process, when they are being taken to hell, if they call out to God, he pulls them out immediately. So they have a chance along the way. It's not instant. And they're like, it's kind of foggy and it's sort of weird. It's interesting because when people go to heaven, it's like, bam, they know what's going on. They're like filled with love and light and all these things. But the hell thing is really murky. It's like they don't realize they've died necessarily right away. And they're like, who are these people that are like leading me somewhere? And it's getting cold and it's getting dark or whatever. Like, it's really, but then, and it's like, it's getting more and more awful. And they're like, oh my gosh. And then it's like, but like this one guy who shares his story in the movie, he says like, he's being dragged down and he's like all these arms and stuff like clutching and pulling him down. And he's starting to realize like, this is the most terrible thing that's ever happened to me. And this, and he's like, who can save me? And this little, memory pops into his head from when he was like 8 years old in Sunday school, which was about all the formation in Christianity he got. And they were teaching about Jesus saves. He's kind of like a superhero or whatever. Like, he can do anything. He can save you. And he was like, Jesus, I need you. And he like rockets up out of the abyss that he's being dragged down into. And he goes to heaven and has this conversation with God. Like, I asked him all these questions, gets all this stuff. And he's like, you're not going to stay here. I need to send you back. And then the guy is revived later, but he was totally dead, like absolutely dead. I mean, and so he comes back to life and he's like, so he tries to tell his family about it and stuff. And they're like, you're nuts. And they reject him. I mean, he suffered a lot in his life after this because of his experiences. And it's like, no one else could relate except someone who'd gone through that exact same thing. And I thought, oh, this is so amazing. Like, total tangent, but I'm like, our Lord himself coming from heaven to earth would have felt like that. No one gets it but me, because none of you have been there. But I have to live with you and I have to reach you somehow. And it's like, what a thing. And now you feel like an exile because you were there. And it's like, nope, sorry. They send you back. Oh man. I mean, I just think, I would be really interested to hear your thoughts on that. But I was just like, what? 20% of NDEs, only 20% are hell experiences. And even then they're not final necessarily. And I mean, obviously these people all came back to life. So they were given another chance anyway. But it's like the percentage is down. It's just like amazing. Like, I don't think that leads people to be presumptuous and to think I can get away with anything. It's like, I think that just makes people in awe of the mercy of God and that he loves us that much that he will do anything to give us any opportunity to choose him. And the tiniest little thread, he'll pull us up on it. And it's like, why would we not want that? Why won't we just hold on to that hope for everyone and then for ourselves say, I alone will perish? That was awesome. It's like, wow, yes, let's think about that. Oh. Okay, so Christopher,
I love that. No, if you're just asking for my thoughts, that's really cool. Lacordaire, in the same homily I quoted, it's in his Paris conferences. It's either the 71st or 72nd. The name, for listeners who might care, is The Results of the Divine Government. And no, I don't know French, so I can't tell you what the French title is. I'm sure you'd find it if you looked hard enough. But he says at the end, he says, I fear that, because he sort of speaks along the lines of his private opinion being most are saved, which is also my private opinion, but I don't really have the right to teach it any more than Augustine had the right to scare me straight with his City of God, book 23 or whatever it was, you know? But that's the Easterner in me. I have a hard time with Augustine sometimes, especially on that grace and sin stuff. Yeah. You know, I'm like, was Pelagius a heretic?
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding. He was definitely a heretic.
Sexuality was a little like, too. I mean, it's like, again,
yeah.
He was kind of a speculative theologian too. So
that's true. Yeah,
he contributed so much, but it's Trinitarian not all stuff. Like 100%. Yeah, right.
Everyone I know, like even like Orthodox, Eastern Orthodox, they're like, Augustine's Trinitarianism is just amazing. So I mean, yeah, he's great for sure. Speculation, all that. Lacordaire concluded his sermon by saying, I'm afraid that I come across as lax to you. Would it not terrify us if even only 1/10 of us were damned in the end? Would that not be enough to terrify you into a life of repentance and virtue? So yeah, it doesn't have to be a big number or percentage to be scary, to be a real threat to that point. And then with the NDEs, like, what are my thoughts on it? Oh, gee, well, I don't really know psychology very well. I know psychology is fascinating. There's a rich literature. I've got a friend who's really into Carl Jung, and I'm kind of drawn to that way of looking at things. Jung has some really interesting speculations to the effect that every male has sort of an inner feminine, and they have to cultivate it to compensate for what's missing, and then vice versa for women. Every woman has an internal sort of man that she has to bring out. So the natural qualities of women, you know, versus men, and I don't need to get canceled or anything, so I won't say what I think those are. I'll just say that I think that if you think about it for a few minutes, you'll come up with a few, you know. Yeah. There's really interesting things in psychology and NDEs, near-death experiences. Those are somewhere in the realm of, like, you know, psychedelics, like DMT trips and things like that. It's like, that's really interesting to me, but I don't even know where to start with that stuff, you know? Yeah. I guess what I'd say is I'll take all of the anecdotal evidence I can get that only a few are saved, though. Or, excuse me, only a few are damned proportionally. I'll take all the evidence I can get, so I appreciate it. Man. But, yeah, and then I would also take it even further. In that 20%, how many of them do you think are going to purgatory? Who knows? Right. Also, for the trads in the room who are saying this is modernist, Dante Alighieri, not a modernist, praised by lots of preconciliar popes. We're reading his Purgatory. I happen to know Deacon Harrison Garlick. If you look him up, he has this amazing podcast. I can't say enough good things about it. It's called Ascend with the Great Books. And we're doing Dante's Purgatory right now in a reading group. And there's a character in Purgatory. Dante interviews this character, this fictionalized person, basically, and asks, how did you get here to Purgatory? So how did you get out of hell? And the character basically said, as I was falling on the battlefield, I shed a single tear for my sins as I was dying. And then that got them to Purgatory, that one tear, according to Dante.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is not modernism. This is Catholicism. And also, I am going to dunk a bit on Redeem Zoomer, Dr. Gavin Ortland. They are way too cool to ever watch this. They never will, but maybe one of their fans will. That's medieval, traditional Catholicism on how salvation works. This whole autism thing about, and I'm autistic, so I can say it, you know, just like my son has Down syndrome, so I can say retarded, you know, like that's how this works. I'm just kidding, I swear. But anyway, this whole thing of like, if you think outside of the church is no salvation, you can't think any pagans, Orthodox or Protestants are saved. BS, dude. Dante puts like the pagan Cato in purgatory. He committed suicide and he was never baptized. Give me a break. Like, tell me the Middle Ages don't think non-Catholics can be saved. I mean, come on. Like, we this has been a thing since Origen. Like, I know Origen was a heretical on some things. It really seems like it. His followers, many of them certainly were. But to say Origen got the part that purgatory is sort of this eighth great sacrament of fire, and that's a quote from Oxenham again, because Oxenham's one of my life heroes, so I have to quote him all the time. He's very interesting. He's worth looking up on Wiki later, but he actually thought about being ordained in the Roman Catholic Church, but he privately came to the opinion his Anglican orders were valid. So he gave up on it. He continued to wear his cleric garb from the Church of England, but he never became ordained in the Roman Catholic Church. And what's interesting is Pope Francis actually signaled that the status of Anglican orders can be regarded as a speculatively open question. Which is interesting because Pope Leo XIII, he wrote an encyclical arguing the contrary case. So we have a conflict of two popes here. And historically speaking, when that happens, you have to give them both a hearing. If that weren't true, well, what about Pope Honorius and then the popes who follow him? Honorius is known to have been a heretic. This is part of why I don't get into the whole sede vacantis stuff. For me, the Bishop of Rome question is very simple. Is he a bishop? Is he assigned to the Roman see? He's the Bishop of Rome then. You might think he sucks, but he's the Bishop of Rome. You know? Like, so I don't even like buy Robert Bellarmine's theology of the Bishop of Rome anymore. I'm pretty much full stop Gallican and conciliarist at this point. I affirm like Vatican I, like bare minimum I have to say I'm a real Catholic, basically. But I mean, like, come on. So how did we get on that?
You know what? I don't even know. But you know what? This is going way back because I'm just sitting here wondering, did you tell me what the third thing was that was really hard for you to accept becoming Catholic?
Birth control.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we didn't talk about that. I was just like, what was it? And people are going to leave comments saying, what was the third?
Oh, I don't care. Yeah, no, it was contraception.
That's a big one.
I remember one of my earliest memories of seeing a Catholic church. This is before I ever had it in my mind to ever maybe become a Catholic someday. I was just checking it out. I was about maybe 19, 20 years old. This was in college in Shawnee, Oklahoma, St. Benedict's Catholic Church. I'm an Oklahoma Baptist University alumnus. So that's what I did. That actually, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking publicly because I don't want OBU to change. Yeah, you could do the math. But anyway, yeah, so I go to this church and I see things that I find unobjectionable, you know, as an evangelical. I was raised thinking abortion was very evil, and I'm going to go on record and say, yes, it's extremely evil. Please, let's not have it anymore. Let's get rid of it if we can. And I understand there's questions about method, and I'm very sympathetic to all that. But method notwithstanding, yeah, that's really messed up. My wife would kill me if I didn't say that. So there you go. And I do agree with her. I'm not a liar. So, but you know, so I see a pamphlet like, you know, are you healing after an abortion? You know, do you need forgiveness, or like, are you considering an abortion? I'm like, yeah, I can get behind that. And then like I see a pamphlet that says something like the evils of contraception, and I'm like, I don't know. That's a new one to me. It's like, what? So very foreign to my background. I kind of don't like saying this, but at the same time, maybe I should, just to put things in perspective for how things feel to our generation. I have 4 children now. I'm likely to have more than 8 at my current progression. That would mean that my wife and I have more children than any of our ancestors that we know of within living generational memory. So both my grandfathers were like white collar elite jobs. My mother's father was a dentist. My father's father was a very successful businessman in Chicago. He had unions like sending hitmen to get him.
Oh,
Yeah.
holy cow.
So they stopped at 3, and I know for a fact they did it on purpose. Here I am in like the worst economy this country has seen in decades. And I'm planning to have at least 9, to be honest with you. I'm like, we are not the same. Like, there's something very different in the ethos here. You know what I mean? And I'm very thankful for where my career has gone. I have it really good, better than I ever thought I would. But just simple fact, I'm a blue collar nobody compared to my grandparents. My dad's a lawyer. That's part of why I avoid law like the plague. Like, even as a Roman Catholic, I refuse to study canon law because gross. Why would I ever do that? I'll stick with metaphysics and the distinction between hypostasis and ousia and the Trinity. That's more where I live. I'll stick with speculative moral psychology and universalism. That's my bread and butter. If my grandparents want to measure whether I've succeeded in life, they should measure me according to that standard. That's what I'd say. Not according to career, because I'm a loser, if that's the standard.
Oh,
but yeah, birth control. That was 100% it.
Well, I mean, you definitely come quite a way in your thought, but you are very open and you're willing to really hear people out and explore things. And like, you are a truth seeker, though. It's not arbitrary. It's like you have a nose for that. So you're not afraid to go listen to people, and you can discern what's true and take the good and be like, I don't need the rest, but I'm good. But thank you for that. That's really great. I will love you forever. Like, you gave me this little nugget. I'm going to go off and put it in my stash. And I think that's awesome, because not everyone has that capacity the same. Like, there are people that would be too scandalized or too confused to be able to read some of the things you read or entertain some of the ideas, because you're not going to go crazy with them, but somebody else might be like really led astray, or really like, oh my gosh, I'm traumatized forever. And, that's why there's like, I guess traditionally like a hell section in the libraries of seminaries and stuff, because it's like certain books, it's like, we're just going to put it over here. And if you want to read those books because you have a really good reason, just ask and we'll be like, okay, you can read these books. Not everyone is maybe ready to handle those, which, I mean, again, some of that might have been a little too fear-based and precautious. Like, I do think we need to not have that cootie fear that can happen when you're like, I need to preserve, I need to protect, I need to hunker down. And like you said something earlier about the little Catholic island, it's like, yeah, all you guys in your germs stay out there because this is fine. And I can't venture out too far. And it's like, wait a second, that's not being the salt of the earth and the light of the world. Like the leaven in the dough. Nah, we're supposed to be like everywhere in the middle of it all and not fear, because God is our reason for being. He is walking there with us. And like that quote that you shared so many great quotes, but that one about Jesus is the reason I'm here. So of course I'm not going to leave, because I fully believe Jesus is in this church. Like, the reason to be Catholic, there's a great talk on the Eucharist. What's his name? Steve Wood or something. He said, like, there's 3 great reasons to be Catholic: the Eucharist, the Eucharist, the Eucharist. I was like, let's just be here with him. Like, really, where shall we go? It's like, we don't really know what to say. I mean, to that teaching, to these things that don't always make sense to us, or it's like, I'm not really comfortable with that. And it's like, yeah, but what else is there?
I'm very much with you there. Yeah. Credit to Dr. Matthew Levering for that one. I can't say enough praise about him. Honestly, everybody should go check out his books. Pick one you like. He's got a lot of. He's writing a dogmatic series. I mean, there aren't many theologians who still do this. Wow. If you go back to the 20th century, you had Sergei Bulgakov and his trilogy on Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, and the church and last things, you know? And it's this really rich Russian Orthodox meditation on these things with a lot of German idealist influence. That's really interesting to me, at least.
Wow.
And then you have like Father Karl Rahner, Society of Jesus, his theological investigation series. It's like 23 volumes, and they cover everything from like nuclear warfare to Christmas, you know? I mean, Rahner just wanted to have something to say about everything. He was one of those guys.
Oh, man.
You know, Karl Barth, probably the greatest 20th century systematic theologian by most accounts that I would respect anyway. You know, he had his church dogmatic series, and it's very rich and it's thick. There aren't a lot of theologians who still do that I know of. But here you have Dr. Matthew Levering. He's on like volume 7 or 8 of 9 or something.
Wow.
And it ranges from Revelation, creation, the Holy Spirit, the Filioque, pretty much anything you can think of. He's probably written about it at this point. He's a really good scholar. I think if Trats are open to recommendations, I think they might be surprised how solid he is, even though he's not a trad himself.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, I don't think he goes to the TLM, as far as I know, but he was hired by Robert Barron, Bishop Barron now, back when Barron was the rector of Mundelein Seminary, which is a gorgeous place, by the way. University of St. Mary on the Lake. Have you ever been there, Laura?
Yes, for a Chester.
Isn't it amazing?
It was amazing. I was like, how did we get to have our conference here? This is so cool.
Oh, you had a conference there? Was that where Trad Recovery was?
No. Oh, no. Sorry. This was,
it
was one of the national G.K. Chesterton conferences that the American Chesterton Society put
on.
Yes.
Are you a nerd too?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well, you hide it so well.
Oh, well, I am not. I am this much of a nerd compared to you. So I'm sitting here in awe of your.
I'm not sure whether to be offended or honored. If I'm a giant nerd, huge geek, in fact.
No,
I can tell you play video games just by listening to you.
I'm just like, I like being friendly, like, oh yes,
I know I'm teasing you. It's all good.
Wow, listen to him go. This is partly why I think you should write a blog or a book or something, because I think you have so many great places to send people.
I do have a Substack now, so I will plug myself.
Oh, dude.
I'm about to have a YouTube presence. I'm working on a video reply to Dr. Gavin Ortland. He's, in my opinion, a highly respectable Protestant scholar. I think he's very sharp. I have some pretty strong existential level disagreements with him, I would say.
Yeah.
Nothing specific about history. He's very sharp, so it would be hard to disagree with him on that. But so I'm working on that, and I'll get it out eventually. Maybe I'll post it on the Trad Recovery forums when it comes out. And I do have a Substack now.
Ooh.
So I'll send a chat in. I don't know if people can see it.
I can put it in the description of the video too, so people can follow the link from there.
Yeah,
so
I
you
don't.
can send me stuff later, and I can add it.
I don't even know my YouTube channel yet, so I'll have to wait on that. But Nicene Infernalism is my Substack.
Cool.
My first 2 posts came out this month. The first one is on the Society of St. Pius X consecrations. I propose that it's a good opportunity for the church to exercise synodality. As a big Eastern Orthodox sympathizer, I think synodality is extremely important, and it's one of my favorite things about Francis's pontificate was that he gave a lot of service to that idea. And you may have heard in the recent consistory of cardinals, they said their top 2 priorities were promoting Evangelii Gaudium, Pope Francis's inaugural encyclical on the joy of the gospel. And their second priority was continuing the synod on synodality. Wow. Those are priorities I can really back. So again, when trats come at me and they're like, the church is so off base, I'm like, they're promoting 2 of the best things that have happened in the last 10 years, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the cardinals might be cringe privately if you met them. I don't know. I've never met a cardinal, you tell me. But yeah, I guess one thing, if any trads friends of mine took the time to listen to this, which God bless you if you did, but I think what I'd want to leave trads with, I want to leave trads with something, and I want to leave non-trads with something. What I'd leave trads with is just take me on either on friendship or authority, because I have some trad friends, you know. There are good reasons to take a different line of response to the crisis that I do agree the church is in. There are other paths. And something that's really important to me for trads, Matthew Minard, if you need somebody who's credentialed, unlike me, Dr. Matthew Minard, he was a Benedictine monk. He did not renew his vows. His simple vows expired. So he ended up becoming a trad Catholic himself. He became a Byzantine Catholic. He's a professor of the only, that I know of, Byzantine Catholic seminary in the United States, St. Cyril and Methodius. So very credentialed guy. He's very friendly to trad opinions. I've actually had the opportunity to speak with him privately once or twice. And he said, "Oh, I'm so rad trad in the Roman Rite that I think Pius X ruined the liturgy when he revised the breviary." And I was like, Dr. Minard, I'm not there, but I respect it. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't respect it. But anyway, so Dr. Minard said this. This is coming from him. You can find it on Tim Flanders, 1 Peter 5. It's a very respected trad blog. It's called something like An Open Letter to Trads from a Byzantine Catholic or something. Byzantine Thomist, because Minard has resurrected the old medieval tradition of the Greek Thomist. In the line of Gregory Akindanos, St. Palomos's debater, in the line of Gennadius II of Constantinople, George Scalarius. The Byzantines, they loved Aquinas back in the day. And modern Orthodox try so hard to retcon this. They call it the captivity, Western captivity.
Oh, wow.
But it's like, no, like Thomism. So I always joke, and I am going to offend some of my Orthodox friends with this. My favorite school of Orthodox theology is Thomism. But anyway, Sophiology, Bulgakov system would be my second favorite. Wow. I don't like Neopalamism, but I do like Scotism, and I've heard that you can incorporate them together. So I do like Neopalamism if it's in a Scotus framework. And that's my hot take on all that. But what I want to leave trads with is you need people on the inside. You can't win by yourselves. You need people on the inside who like you and will go to bat for your preferences for the Tridentine Mass. If you lose those people, you are going to lose the Tridentine Mass. You're all going to get corralled with the Society of St. Pius X. A lot of trads seem to have already made peace with that, so maybe that's not really much of a threat anymore. But I don't think that's where you want to end up. I think a good trad, in my opinion, should want to conquer the Catholic Church. You can't do that by being antisocial. You can't do that by shunning every community you run into outside of your niche parish. You can't do it. It's not possible. So I would just urge trads, don't alienate people like me, people who know you and respect you, who see where you're coming from, but have just drawn a set of different conclusions about how we got here and how we're going to get out. I think trads need, that might be egotistical of me, but I think trads need me. And to be honest, on some level, I think I need trads. I need a bunch of people who are ride or die for Catholicism, who are going to practice it even if they get corralled in St. Mary, Kansas, and made fun of by everyone else. I need them too. We need to shake on this, trads and I. That's how I feel. That would sort of be my appeal to trads. And my appeal to non-trads would be take responsibility for how much of a mess the church is right now. I should be able to go to any mass in the United States. This is my actual opinion. I should be able to go to any mass in the United States, and I should have a 50-50 chance of being greeted by Gregorian chant. Until that is a reality, the U.S. liturgy sucks, and I'm just going to say it. That's really what I think. So to non-trads, like, admit it. It sucks right now. It's ugly. It's a boomer thing. Everybody knows it, you know? We don't get anywhere. It's like confession. If I'm not honest about what's wrong, I can't get anywhere spiritually. Same with the church as a community. If we're not honest, and optics really matter. This is something trads need to remember, and they need to remember to not be so antisocial and to take a freaking olive branch when they get one, you know? Like I heard a story of a former priest. I think I know which one, but I'm not going to take a guess because it'd be disrespectful. But a former priest at the parish I used to attend, he considered Bishop Slattery, who was like a top 3 trad bishop in the U.S., he considered him a modernist. And he said that in a homily. I'm sorry, that is unacceptable behavior. You are never going to get anywhere, trads, if you're like that. Stop being like that. Trads, if you ever hear a priest do that, boo him en masse. Literally. Now, listen, I'm very anti-clericalist, so you may not be asking the right guy. If he's not my local bishop, I literally don't care who he is. I mean, I am like, whenever people bow for the priest blessing, I'm like, he's not God. Like, stand up. Good grief. But so with non-trads, I think that what trads don't like, they don't like it when non-trads, like, and I fall in this bucket a little bit, you know, when we're all, you know, gung-ho about Vatican II, and we're all gung-ho about how terrible Lefebvre was, but then like the German bishops go on uninterrupted. I think like non-trads could be more honest. I think we could be more, we could also be less antisocial to trads. A lot of us are burned by them, and I think something I'm trying to learn, like as a member of your site, and I love trad recovery. It's very wholesome, but like there's a lot of people in there with rough stories, and I didn't have a very rough story. I was just kind of offended as kind of a nerd, you know, like it's not like I was traumatized really, maybe a little, but not like, I know people who are like deeply traumatized. I'm not so much talking to them. I think somebody who's been through the fire doesn't really need to go back in the burning house, you know? But like those of us who haven't been burned by trads really bad, like me, we should run back in the burning house, shake some hands, make some friends, help them see that they're still good in the mainstream church, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I rambled a super long time.
No, that was good.
I guess those are some thoughts I'd like to leave with people.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I mean, what you just said too is we can accuse other people being culty, but then if we act like us versus them, we're being culty. So we don't want to go trying to correct and then just go all the way around again. And again, like in our mission to show people that there's good in the mainstream church and that like things aren't as bad as you are afraid of them being, but at the same time, it's like, but it's still pretty bad. Like we don't want to gloss over things that should not be happening. We don't want to give some people a get out of jail free card, but other people it's like, yeah, you know better. You shouldn't be doing that. It's like, no, nobody should be doing that. And so that's totally fair. So like, yes, we definitely acknowledge like people being disturbed by those things going on. Like it is disturbing. That shouldn't sit right with you. But then a lot of times, you know, like the trads that are disrupted, you know, they're disturbed over the state of the church, but then they're attending sacrilegious masses and flirting with schism and like, or, you know, doing things that charity would never encompass. And it's like, well, what? It's like you forgot the most important thing because you were so focused on these other things. And it's like, geez, it's hard to keep to the narrow path, isn't it? Like to really be moderate. It like to be universal, to not be fearful, to not be afraid of the cooties, but at the same time, not to condone them. It's like really hard. So you're saying we're basically going to accept we're in the church and the church is a family. And some of those family members you'd rather not see at Christmas dinner. But it's like, but I still love you. I can talk to you sometimes. I can give you a hug, you know, like I'm not going to throw you out in the snow because you didn't, you know, say you loved everything that I, you know, did and thought my entire life. Like it doesn't have to be just like hot or cold. Not saying, you know, I'm oh, look, there I'm going modernist. I'm advocating for lukewarm. No, I'm advocating for like, just don't be extreme because you don't have to be a faithful Catholic to really be someone who lives by love and the works of mercy. And like, that's really what Jesus showed us. And so like all this calling us back to the gospel, all these things. It's like, it would really quiet all those voices. They're like, look at me, listen to this is scary, don't do that. And it's like, you'll never get to the end of that stuff, but you can easily get lost in it. And Jesus's words will keep you on the focus and the path that you need to be on. Yeah.
That's very well put. I fully agree.
I'm so glad we agree. Oh, this was so fun, Christopher. Oh gosh. I mean, I feel like we skipped around. I was like, oh man, I like wanted to hear some other stuff too. Like, just about your progress through things, but I also don't want to keep you up super late.
I have time. I just don't want to be disrespectful of your time. So I'll let you decide. If you want to keep going, I can keep going. But if you'd rather call it a night, I'm good with that too.
Oh man, golly. Yeah, I feel like we didn't talk too much about your transition into Catholicism, what that was like for you, and then you ending up trad. And then
I can comment on that briefly. Basically, one thing I actually really like, my first visit to a TLM, Tridentine Mass, was before I was even Catholic.
Oh.
So I've never had a period of ignorance of the Tridentine rite. And that was one thing that was strange to me when I started attending the FSSP parish in town weekly, as opposed to every once in a while, because the one where I used to live was like over an hour away, and I don't drive more than 30 minutes for church. I just don't do that. Canon law says I don't even have to go to church if I don't have one within 30 minutes, So I don't know. But anyway, so what happened was I always liked the Tridentine rite, and even today, to kind of put my head in a good place for this talk, I actually went to my former parish for daily mass today. And I cried because the Tridentine rite is so beautiful. I've never lost my love for it. I guess you could say I'm kind of like Benedict XVI in that way. Like, he doesn't think the liturgical revisions are unjustified or bad, but he acknowledges that there's something really grand. There's a line in the Tridentine that just always hits me every time I read it. It says something like, it's when the priest says he's offering the sacrifice for his innumerabilibus peccatoribus, my uncountable sins. And I just read that and I'm like, isn't that true for everyone in this room?
Yeah.
That we're all here because we can't even count our sins. And here we are, like, seeing the sacrifice of Christ again. We get it only happened once, but we see it over and over again. That's the Orthodox theology of it. We can't say it's multiple sacrifices. It's one sacrifice, but it's like a movie that's just so great. You have to see it over and over again before you really believe that it did something,
Yeah.
So I've always liked the Tridentine, but when I met people there, they'd be like, well, they had like a second conversion to the Tridentine rite. I always thought that was cringe. The furthest, so becoming Catholic, a Byzantine Catholic that I met online encouraged me to look into it. I wanted to be Orthodox at first. I've mentioned several times I have Orthodox affinities. I'm willing to claim, until an Eastern Orthodox friend proves that I'm wrong, I'm willing to claim that I am an Eastern Orthodox Christian who is canonically a member of the Roman Catholic Church. Prove me wrong. I'm willing to claim that. But that's where I'm at. So, that's what I wanted to do. The whole idea that you could have Eastern Orthodox theology and spirituality, but be a member of the Catholic Church, or even that there were Byzantine Catholic churches as opposed to Roman ones that are all in communion together, that was totally foreign to me. I found that gentleman very persuasive. And so he encouraged me to look into it, and I did, and it went from there. As far as the trad thing goes, like I was telling you, my friend in the Order of Preachers, after Traditiones Custodes came out, he encouraged me to support the Tridentine rite while it lasted, because at the time it seemed like it could get shut down any second.
Yeah.
So sort of what I thought was going to happen is I'm going to go like 3 weeks and then the bishop's going to shut it down because that's what the motu proprio said to do. That's what I thought at the time. That's what everybody thought at the time, from what I remember. And so I went, and then you get to know people, you start getting involved. We got very involved. I even relocated to this part of town because I hate driving far away to Mass. I'm like, if I'm going to go to Mass here, I'm going to be right here. I'm not going to live an hour away by Clear Creek Abbey like some of these other people, which God bless them. Clear Creek's amazing. But like, that's a really long drive for church, don't you think? So, I was like, I wasn't going to do that. And there have been times that I've been very bitter, I have to admit, like, because I felt like I sort of changed my whole life for that parish, only to like feel like I couldn't keep going on with it later. It was really hard. So maybe I'm selling myself short when I say I wasn't pained by my experiences. But does that answer your question? I was just introduced to the Tridentine Mass early, never had a reason to be against it, always kind of liked it, always found it very beautiful, still find it very beautiful. Had occasion, due to current events like the motu proprio that was restricting the Latin Mass, especially at a diocesan level. You get involved with the people, you start hearing the stories, you start trying to fit in. It kind of went from there. I guess the deepest I got into it was, like I said, the Mass of the Ages documentary I thought was very compelling at the time I watched it. One of the hardest things, actually, and I wanted to say this earlier, there was a gentleman at the parish. I actually regard him very highly, but not for this. He sent out a blog post saying that Eucharistic particles on the ground, walking on them is a sacrilege. And that's why I thought it was great when Brian Murphy quoted the Summa Theologia, where Aquinas says that the particles have to be reasonably visible. And if they're not, then it's not even the sacrament, is what Brian Murphy says Aquinas teaches, which I didn't know before that. So I was kind of on my own. I ended up resolving the tension in my head. It was very hard to do, but I ended up resolving it in my head by being like, well, our Lord consented to be incarnate, knowing that that was possible. I consulted moral theology textbooks. My favorite one that I know of is from the 1920s, so no trad can tell me that it's modernist, And it basically said it's not possible to commit sacrilege against the Eucharist. It's not really possible to do that unintentionally, is what it was saying.
Yeah.
And so I just came to the position, well, by the principles of moral theology, at the most, this is a venial sin in the way that, like, committing, like, being an executioner for the death penalty might cross into venial sin territory. I'm not actually sure how that all works, but that's how I heard it from one friend. I don't know, like in war or whatever, like there are some things that are kind of like, you don't really want to do that, but there might be a circumstance where you have to, For example, like King David, he's the warrior, but our Lord, his descendant, he fights a bloodless war,
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's sort of a sense in which being a real warrior is kind of gross and dirty. It's not really fitting of like Our Lady or our Lord,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it might be something that's worth doing. And even with him saying that, I was like, well, if you're worried about it, at least go to a mainstream parish and pray in the back row. Why wouldn't you even do that? Like these people who are like, I won't even go to the current form of the Roman Mass, like the SSPX position that it's sacrilegious or whatever. I don't know. One friend said like licit and poisonous or something. I was like, wow, okay.
Holy cow. Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
Does that answer your question about, well, I guess into Catholicism through the Orthodox stuff, through the Byzantine Catholic, the trad stuff, circumstantial. Yeah, that answers your question, right? Any other questions about that?
Oh, wow. I was just, curious kind of about the process and sort of your experiences. And like now you're going to a diocesan church or just.
I attend the cathedral in my hometown, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oh, that's cool.
It's really cool. We've received around 100 people into the church like 3 years in a row there.
Wow. That's awesome.
Like coming into like a parish that's very focused on outreach, because at the Tridentine I went to, it was very insular. So going somewhere else that's like very outreach, it's really easy to make friends. It's easy to make friends at the Tridentine as well, if you're careful, is I guess what I would say. But like I saw a kid wearing like a Def Leppard t-shirt in Mass the other day. And I actually thought it was awesome. I'm a huge fan of metal and rock. You know, I started wearing my Hollow Knight. It go right here. I'm not wearing it now. I started wearing my Hollow Knight Silk Song pin, like that video game that just came out last year. Everyone waited like 7 years for. Like I wear that to mass, and like no one gives me grief for it. It's great, you know.
Oh man,
there are people with like lots of tattoos at the cathedral, and I think that's awesome. I'm like, anyone feels like they can show up, you know. There was a woman, like God bless her, her husband converted in the Tridentine rite directly, so he had no Novus Ordo presence. He just went Protestant to Tridentine.
Oh.
And she had this awesome hairdo. It was like dyed red and everything, and she had this sick hat, you know, definitely didn't fit in. But I went up to her and I said, your hair is awesome. Never change for these people. Like I straight up said that to her, like after Sunday mass, you know, and like, it's nice to be in a place where I don't have those conversations, you know?
Right.
Yeah. People would get onto me for my guitar playing at the Tridentine too, because I'm a big metalhead. So I'd bring my electric guitar and I'd play, and people would give my wife and me grief. And it's like, come on. Like, I don't know. I'm in an environment where that doesn't happen anymore. It's really nice.
Yeah. Right. So it's like you love those people, you love things that you left, but
certainly
it wasn't feeding you, it wasn't keeping your peace as much as another place was. And so it's not like you're rejecting everybody. Like I was just talking to a friend yesterday who's been attending an FSSP parish for like 9 years, and she's just been less and less peaceful there, having more and more difficult interactions with people. And she's like, she tends to just think everything is her, which is, I mean, is very humble, but I'm like, no, it's not just you. Like I hear about this from all over the place. Like it's not just you. And, you know, like she's having all these wonderful experiences at other parishes and events and groups and things that are just feeding her so much. And she's like, wow, but I just don't want to leave him. I don't want him to think I'm judging them. I don't want to, like, it's, you know, my decisions don't reflect on anybody else. But at the same time, you know, what if, you know, it causes a disturbance, or, you know, what if I'm wrong? You know, I'm leaving Jesus or something. And I was like, oh, I'm like, God is leading you to these other things. He's saying, come to me. I want to give you this. You're not going to get that there. But right now, this is what you need. And it's like, you can leave and just say, this is what I need to do. And if people are going to conjecture, or they're going to feel judged, or like, you know, you're telling them they're wrong, well, you're not.
Yeah, I'm very sympathetic to what you're saying. I completely agree. I think one thing that I would consider worth saying is the idea that having a good rite or liturgy is the silver bullet that fixes everything else. I have a huge problem with that, like on so many levels, you know?
Yeah.
Not to throw shade at people, but I feel like Eastern Orthodox kind of get in this too a little bit. And I was just talking to an Eastern Orthodox friend this morning, and I conceded. I said, the liturgy over there is the best reason to join, like straight up. You know, that is a really big deal. And they don't have a lot of the problems we have with our liturgies. But the idea that the liturgy compensates for everything else, that doesn't work for me at this stage in my faith. I think that I need the moral life. I think I need up-to-date magisterial reflections on what's happening now, as opposed to what was happening in the Papal States in 1845 or whatnot. I don't really care. Thank God the Italians destroyed the Papal States. That's, I guess, where I stand on that. You know, like people are like, you know, I'm not sure about this encyclical by, you know, Leo or Francis. I'm like, I'm not sure about that encyclical by Pius X, Pius IX, Gregory XVI, Pius VI. I'm not sure about those encyclicals. You know, like if you guys are conceding as a premise that a valid bishop of Rome can write something problematic, I need you to walk it back a few centuries now. Because if that's true now, it was true then.
Yeah.
So the hermeneutics of accepting magisterial teachings has to incorporate all time. It can't just incorporate our favorite time periods.
Right.
If it did, my favorite time period would be when Pope Gregory the Great was still the Pope. If I were our Lord, I would have just made Pope Gregory immortal, and I would have made him the Pope the rest of time. I think the Orthodox would have no arguments left at that point, because he was just such a great Pope.
Yeah.
So the unification would certainly have happened, you know?
Oh,
To
man.
quote my Eastern Orthodox friend, unfortunately, our Lord did not consult me in the matter.
Oh man. Oh yeah, we have all kinds of ideas about that. Right. It's just it's hard to see like how good something was or someone was and be like, but God had other gifts to share with the church, even in forms that make me uncomfortable or feel unsure. But again, what you're saying is so great about like you got to just keep, if you're going to follow a certain argument, you got to follow it all the way through. And that's where a lot of trads end up sedevacantist or like, but the sedevacantists go back further and further and further and further, and further because eventually they're doing
I'm not
exactly
sure
what you
Peter
said.
was the Pope. Are we Orthodox now? No,
I
I'm just
know.
kidding. Or I guess
Let's just
Protestants. 'Cause
start
even
all
Orthodox-
over. Yeah.
Even Orthodox think Peter was the Pope. They just don't. I think I'm quoting them right to say the Pope is the Archbishop of all the churches, but what Vatican I says about him is slightly wrong. I think that's their position in its strongest form.
Interesting.
But that's a claim about speculative theology, and
Yeah.
that's my favorite. You're on my
Oh, that's so funny.
because with speculative theology, history only gets you halfway. It's like, cool, there were Arians back in the day, there were Trinitarians back in the day before Nicaea. You had to actually speculate and evaluate those proposals on first principles. That's how the Council of Nicaea happened. So it's no different with Vatican I.
Yeah.
You have to actually think about the theology, and I find it for a certain kind of mindset, and I think trads get into this a lot, where it's just quote mining from history. With a certain mindset, some people are deeply uncomfortable with that, in my experience. And I would say that about trads. I think they love Aquinas. They should just read more Aquinas. He's a great speculative theologian, you know? And I'm not saying that condescendingly. I mean, this is actually one thing. I digress so much. I'm so sorry, Laura.
Oh no, this is good. It's fine.
I was just going to say Edward Facer, I think, doesn't appreciate Aquinas's tentativeness sometimes. So Aquinas will tentatively talk about what happens to the soul when it when the body dies. And Facer will be like, Aquinas just settled this. But Aquinas himself is like, I think it works this way. Kind of makes sense to me. Same thing with his angelology. Paul J. Griffith's book, Day Creation, brings this out really well. But Thomistic angelology is not dogma. It's just a popular medieval doctrine. There were other angelologies, like in the Franciscan model. And on some of those models, Aquinas' argument that demons can't repent become a little harder to maintain. So this is where you open the door to maybe more like, if it is true Gregory of Nyssa had been a universalist, which I don't care. I don't need him to have been a universalist. Maybe he was. Cool. You know, but universalists, they write as though they really need him, you know, like Bulgakov. He used Nyssa as sort of his loophole for universalism being orthodox. David Bentley Hart, I think, has basically said he doesn't care if he's orthodox anymore. So I guess he's a little more honest there, but you know how it goes.
Yeah. Wow. Jeez. There's just so much. Yeah, so many great ideas to just sit with, because we all need to be challenged, and that's tough, but it's good for us. That's what stretches us, makes us have to go look and learn. So we don't have to have all the answers, and we don't even have to understand everything. One thing I love, Dom Dalmaso has the Logos Project. I had him on one time, and he was talking about like when we read magisterial documents or something, we're like, oh, I don't understand that. Or the Vatican II, for instance, and people are like, I don't agree with it. I think it's contradictory, or, you know, whatever. Like how, and he's like, you know, instead of just jumping right to that and being like, it contradicts, it can't be true, and you know, he's like, maybe we just assume, I don't think I understood that properly. He's like, that's the first place we should go, is maybe I don't have enough context. Maybe I just didn't get it. I'm missing something, or, you know, like I should give first the benefit of the doubt to the church, especially the magisterium and the general councils. You know, it's like, and it doesn't all have to make sense to me to be true, but I can still accept it, and I can still find Jesus here. And it's like, you know, at the end of your life, what is he gonna want to know? I mean, he already knows, but like, did you do your best to be faithful according to your pay grade? You didn't have to figure everything out to get here. Did you love as I loved? And it's like, gosh, that's really what it all boils down to. Modernist that I am, I like to talk about love and mercy, but Jesus said to St. Faustina,
that is not modernist. Do not give that to them. Do not give that to them.
But I mean, okay, so I know they don't love, a lot of them don't love St. Faustina and Divine Mercy, but still, okay, sorry. But
is that right? They don't.
It is worth reading the diary anyway, even if you're uncomfortable with it and you think it's going to be terrible, because you'll be pleasantly surprised, I promise. But one of the things Jesus says to St. Faustina is, love and mercy are my greatest attributes. So we can never diss talking about those, because that is God. It doesn't exclude anything else, but that is his overarching, that is what he wants us to know. That is the most important thing we need to know in order to access him and to know that he is there. Because everything else, if you leave that out, all you're doing is pushing people away. You're just putting obstacles in their way, heavy burdens on their backs, and not lifting a finger to carry them.
That verse sticks with me a lot.
Oof.
That's very well put. I think just to add slightly to what you're saying, who is interested in a justice that doesn't have a hint of mercy in it? Who is interested in a system of equity that doesn't contain love? That would be another question I have. So let's not even say, well, is love the greatest attribute versus like justice or whatever? Like, this was a talking point I really picked up on as a universalist, and I think it stuck with me, even though I'm not a universalist anymore. There are some things people attribute to God's justice. I don't even think that's just. Either God doesn't do it, or I don't understand it, to quote George MacDonald. But like, if you're telling me God does that, that sounds horrible to me. Like the Canaanite conquest and Joshua. I was talking to an atheist friend recently, and they were admitting that was one of their top reasons that they don't want to believe in Christianity, because they can't make sense of it. And I told him, join the club. I can't make sense of it either. I mean, I'm like, I trust there is an answer, and that's why I'm not quitting. Yeah. But like, that is a top 3 reason to be an atheist. Like, that very thing, for me anyway. So like, if love and mercy aren't a part of justice, I don't care. Like, who cares? I mean, that's I guess my question for the mercy versus justice people.
Great.
And there are a lot of those in the trad circle, I remember.
Yeah. Oh man, no. And I mean, I can sympathize with that, but as I was more of that line of thinking definitely years ago, and I was very sensitive to that kind of stuff. But as time's gone by, I've just seen the wisdom in it, why these revelations are coming to light more in recent years, and the church is opening more in her language, in her way of reaching people and things. It's not weakness. It's not watering down. It's like, because this is time to show the world, this is how the world can be welcomed into our Lord, to be received into his arms. And it's what they need to hear now. There are so many people who don't even believe in God anymore. So threatening hellfire isn't going to do anything for them, except convince them even more that they are right to think the way they do. And so it's like, there's nothing to gain from that. If you're already going to hell, from what you're doing, and like you can't think anything better, and people are threatening you, it's like, no, just leave me alone. Like, no, what is going to draw someone in is the idea that they are amazingly loved and cared for, painstakingly created and upheld through time and desired for all eternity. And like, we can never dwell enough on those things. Geez, there's so many wonderful things like that to just plumb. It's amazing, even though I try not to get drugged down into all this stuff, like all the issue stuff, it's always there. But it's like, man, why don't I just spend more time sitting around contemplating that, the goodness, the amazingness, and calling other people to do that.
Maybe we should ordain women, Laura.
Oh no,
that was a joke. But that was very, very beautiful.
Oh, well.
I think that's what our faith is all about ultimately, you know, and maybe the message to trads should be that maybe there needs to be a recentering more in that direction. And if they need somebody who's like old and traditional, I'll just give two super quick. I was mentioning Hilary, the saint and bishop and doctor. I believe it was him. I just read in the Office of Readings recently. He said, "What is the fear of the Lord?" He said, "Well, it is not our fear." He said, "Our fear is due to our weakness. We're afraid of punishment. We're afraid of our guilt. We're afraid of this." He said, "The fear of the Lord is something that must be taught. And the scripture says you must seek and cry out for the fear of the Lord, the beginning of wisdom." Mm-hmm. He says, "The fear of the Lord is the kind of fear that is learned, and it's a kind of love."
Oh, wow.
And then secondly, Isaac of Nineveh, Eastern saint. He's now officially a Roman saint per Pope Francis. So maybe that's a ding for a trad. I don't know. But Isaac of Nineveh, right there, actually, that big icon. I named my son after him. But Isaac of Nineveh, he says he praises the merciful heart that's on fire for all creatures, including like lizards or even, he says, demons. Like your heart is for all, you know. And he says it's not in the nature of the compassionate creator to create a creature simply to destroy it later. That's not in his nature, you know. I mean, right. These are very old and traditional ideas. This is not modernism. I have no patience for that.
Thank you so much for saying that. Okay, so this is like, I don't want to go after anybody here, but 2 Octobers ago, Brian Holdsworth, I don't know if you know him, he reached out to me about doing a video, and we did. It was like a 2-hour video. It was great, but he never posted it, and he never told me why. But one of the things I said in that video, which after it came out of my mouth, I thought, I bet that really shocked him. And I suspect I could be wrong, and he can correct me, because I've always been curious, Brian, to know why you didn't post that video. I mean, we were communicating right up till then, and it was great, and then nothing ever since. Okay, so anyway, but I said, God loves all creation. That's what keeps it in existence. I said, even the devil is maintained in creation because of the love of God. That is why he exists. He would pass out of existence if God did not love him. And I was like, wow. I just said that, and then I was like, well, I didn't have a bunch of references to back it up, but I was like, I totally believe that. Love.
You don't need a reference. That is
power.
No, this is speculative.
He was like, wow, you know, like he did act a little shocked. And
what's
I thought
funny,
maybe he felt like he couldn't air that on his channel. I don't know. So,
what's funny is that's Thomism. That is just straight Thomism. Straight up. You could have backed that up with Aquinas in theory. It's okay that you did it. It's just true, you know? It's one of those things, like if you're confronted by the truth, you just kind of know it, even if you resent it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here's my 2 cents, Laura. Respectfully email Mr. Holdsworth and see if he'll reconsider posting it. Tell him if he has to edit it first that's okay with you.
Yes.
But I think that's cool. I think you would be great on his show. I don't watch his show often, but he seems like, you know, a reasonably good Roman Catholic YouTuber. I mean, I have no YouTube clout or presence at all, you know. I'm a nobody, so I don't I can't really claim anything like his influence, but I think you definitely should give your video a shot. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that.
It's okay. I'm sure
I guess we'll see if John Farrell posts the talk he's having with me tomorrow after I drop the German bishop's 1967 document on the fallible magisterium on him.
Oh man, send me
I don't
that.
think he's ready for that.
You
want me to send you that? Really? It's going to be interesting.
That.
Yeah, my Eastern Orthodox friend Sam dared me to do it.
Oh,
and
man.
I think John's a charmer, really, but obviously I disagree with him a lot, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to be very friendly. I've since I'm new to YouTube, I'm trying to build my clout with kindness.
That's awesome.
Hopefully it's working out. Hopefully I haven't been too much of a jerk in this video. That'd be a poor start.
No, we can all tell you come in peace, you mean well. But before we close, I just want to ask about the Lover of Origin subtitle under your name.
Oh, I'm so glad. This would be the best part of the video. Thomas Aquinas and the Greek Fathers. It's a book. Thomas Aquinas and the Greek Fathers. If you ignore this whole video, listen to that. That book is amazing. It is worth the whole price of the book just for the essay on Aquinas' relationship to Origen. Origen is the greatest early church theologian, bar none. I could quote George Scholarius, the Eastern Patriarch I mentioned earlier, the Greek Thomist. He said, "The Western divines say when Origen is good, no one is better." He said, "The Eastern divines say Origen was the whetstone of us all, the stone that we're sharpened on like a knife." Yeah, I will admit, Scholarius does say some unflattering things about Origen after that. So I'm quoting selectively, and I'm being transparent about that. But he did not say those things. He did say them. So no, I think he's just wonderful. I chose my saint. Gregory of Nyssa is actually my saint. I partially chose him because of the Universalism connection. He's commonly interpreted that way. I don't know if he really believed it, but a lot of people see him that way. He was an early abolitionist. So he preached in an Easter homily that God can't even own slaves. And so we can't own slaves either, because even God can't do that. That was actually the homily. It's like Easter 384 or something.
Wow.
So yeah, that's really cool. And then he also he was, of all the church fathers, none of them were more influenced by Origen than Gregory of Nyssa. He's the most Origenist of all the saints.
Wow.
And so he and I share a common master, you could say. So I chose him on my journey. But yes, I am a lover of Origen. I don't think he got everything right, but I think he got pretty darn close. If we want to course correct from Augustine to an Origen, a la Balthasar, a la Robert Barron, I'm very okay with that.
Oh, thank you, Christopher. That was great. This has been totally delightful. And I can't wait to see you on your own channel because you'll be amazing. So thank you so much for
so kind. Thanks, Laura. This means the world to me, really. And you do wonderful things at Trad Recovery. I really love what you guys do. And I, one, can't believe you guys tolerate my posts on the forum. And two, I really enjoy it there. So thank you very much.
Oh, awesome. Well, God bless you. Thank you so much for your time. And we'll be praying for you. And yeah, look forward to seeing your work. So God bless you.
Thanks a lot. Take care, Laura. Bye.
You too.